Hi everybody, welcome to Audio Lab Studios. I'm music producer and mix engineer Teddy Calderon. Today we're going to talk about Into the Darkness and working behind the scenes. I would have done all the sound design, all the ADR, and practically do a demo mix of the movie Into the Darkness. So I want to take you on a journey with me, explaining some of the things I did and give you a little behind the scenes of the audio production from Audio Lab Studios of Into the Darkness. Thank you for joining me on this podcast. So let's get into it. And our first topic is production audio. So we use the Rode NT2A shotgun mic on this production with a blip and sound screen and boom pole, obviously. We use wireless connectivity because we wanted to be free with the boom pole, or if I would have had someone to also hold the boom pole for specific reasons. We captured all of the dialogue as well. We boomed all of the dialogue as close as we possibly could within the shot to make sure that we had the optimum amount of sound quality and capturing those key elements in dialogue, which are vitally important as we would hear going forward. We also captured a lot of ambient sound. The ambience is for when you're in post-production, you would overlay that. We'll talk about that as well. And try to capture as much scenic sound as possible so that you can recreate that in post-production. This all was recorded into the Zoom. And because it's a movie, it's a lot of audio. We shot at 24-bit 48 kilohertz. So we end up with about roughly 80 something gigs of audio data. So that next step, I want to talk about making copies of your audio data. So I always say make duplicate copies. So one from the card to a drive, and the secondary backup drive you should copy from the card. So don't copy to a drive and then copy from that drive. The reason for that is if there are errors from copying to that drive, then now your backup also has errors. So you don't kind of want that at all, in no circumstances at all. And it's very important because you can't go back out and recreate some of that. So then there will be a process of ADR, which we'll get to that in a minute also. But it's important to make sure you have all of your data copied and backed up and labeled. Label your folders. You can even label the audio, scene 2, take 2, whatever. Because we do know what sound we will use for specific things. Now the setup for the camera was a wireless receiver. So from my Zoom, we were sending the signal to the camera for scratch audio while I'm recording at 24-bit 48 kilohertz. My DAW of choice for editing all of this movie and audio is PROTOOLS HD. Why? Because I've been using PROTOOLS HD for the past 15 years. Yeah, 15 years of audio production, whether it be music commercials, movies, music videos, it doesn't matter. I love Pro Tools because, one, for me, the workload, you can handle any amount of workload, low latency or no latency, however you want to count it, and also familiarity with pulling up the tools or plugins that you need to get the job done and get the sound the way you want it. That craftsmanship. It's also a saying, a craftsman should know his tools well, and for me, Pro Tools is it. It's industry standard. When I work with people globally, they always ask me like, what DAW do you use? Say, what, Pro Tools? Oh, great. Then you can just send me those files and it'll work back perfectly. And then there's also remote working, which is a thing now. It gives you a lot of flexibility and parameters. I use UAD plugins on this movie, and those are really like the best in the world plugins, and I kind of like their versatility and the sound that they give you. I also use analog hardware as well. I got the 1176 and the 500 series preamps and EQs, etc. But my DAW of choice has to be and is Pro Tools for now, because, like I say, it just works for me. I'm not going to get into too much details, as you can watch a lot of videos on how that DAW works. Listening to the movie. So first of all, when I got the movie from the editor, who, by the way, is Stockton Miller, CEO of Porthouse Productions, big up to you. It was like there were some errors, like because we were sending audio, like I said, wirelessly to the camera for scratch audio. Some of that got in, so we had to correct that. But once we corrected that, then it was like, okay, I'm going to work on this part and the sound. The guys who did this scoring on the movie are going to do that. But when they got it, it was like, yeah, I've got nothing, man, because there were no like cues in terms of Foley and samples and different things. So I had to listen to the track and start to build that. So with hoping that they would have been able to work alongside me, that was not the case. So I had to listen to the movie, and I didn't watch it in its entirety. I watched it in segments, like 6 minutes here, 10 minutes there, depending on the scene, to kind of get a sense of what I need to start looking for in my library and what I need to start scheduling out, because I did a massive schedule for this, because the sound is very important, and we were very detailed in doing all these sounds. So making sure all the scenes in my head had a list of the things needed to be done for order was very important, and that took a while to set up. I can say it took about 5 to 6 days, and this is only because we are on a very short 5-week time limit to get this done, which is like impossible. But we made it. So after I made the list, then there is dialogue. So dialogue for me is the most important. It's like king, because if you can't hear what the person is saying, then that's a problem, right? So we need to be sure that all the dialogue is clear and audible. Though there were some ADR, audio dialogue replacement scenes we did, and why is because, like, although we shot in a restaurant, we killed the AC, we killed the fridge and everything, but yet there was a noise coming in, so that was problematic. If it was continuous, that's fine, but you cut one scene, there's no noise, then you cut to another scene, there's the noise, and it doesn't feel right because they're in the same room, they should be hearing the same things. So we had to do ADR on that and make it perfect and fit back within the scene, and then just skimming through all the other production audio we've used, because we had a budget constraint on the movie to kind of bring everybody in and just ADR everybody. So given decisions we had to make based on the level of nature, level of noise of nature, we had crickets, we can't tell them to tone it down, guys. And then some areas where there was traffic, there was loud music, or there were just people having very loud conversations in their home. So yeah, audio dialogue helps to narrow that perspective. We already spoke about the ambient sound. This is where the ambience come in now, where we play that under the vocal, so you get that feel like they're still there, but and that's very important. Most movies do 90% of ADR, so that, because you can't control nature and the sounds. If you're shooting next to the airport, you can't tell the airplanes to stop keeping noise. You gotta redo everything. Yeah, so so that took a while to do, because the artists, the actors, you'll hear me say artists sometimes because I'm a music producer also, but the actors, it was new to them. So watching the clips over and kind of, trying to simulate the same feel, the same kind of thing, and say, impressionably, is a talent, and you got to practice it more or less. So we had fun with that, and we got over that. And like I say, it is all a learning process, but we paid very detailed listening to sound, because it will make or break this movie, as it's a horror film and it needs those moments of quietness but still ambience happening. And quietness doesn't mean like there's no sound, there's things happening, but it's very quiet. So I had to get those details. So Foley, yeah, all part of that listening and seeing where it needs. So there's another big list for that, where we would have looked at things like your shirt moving, you're on the phone, you're texting, you're talking, you're walking, footsteps, different surface areas. So you got grass, you got tiles, you got concrete. All those things needed to be implemented into the track, inserted, more or less. And lots of other things like metals and bags, and it's crazy. Things falling and breaking, people eating, simple things like uncorking a drink and you getting that turn of the cover, and then the fizz from the drink. All those things need to put in. Everything in the movie was recreated through Foley or sound design. So sound effects, I had a library for those. So you just pull it, the gunshots, some of the punches, some of the gore and blood and squishiness. We kind of pull those from sound libraries because again we had a limited budget and we couldn't go and get a whole set of stuff we needed to make those authentic noises. But some of the noises were authentic. It took a long time to do the Foley. I would say about 4 weeks of Foley, because you kind of got to follow what the person is doing and kind of do it. So it's a rehearsal before you record and then kind of get it right. And because some of the movements and the cuts with the visual cues within the editing were different, you had to line them up and make sure that you kind of get them and get that movement right. So that was also a lot of work. Super challenging, very technical, but fun. That's most important. Sound design. So, sound design for me was a bit kind of experimental. And why I say experimental, because there's some unique sounds that, would work with certain parts but wouldn't work with some parts. And then, like today, you would make those nice adjustments and then no, so you had to really work with the sound design and to do builds to like jump scares, etc. I use native instruments, and I want to thank Steppa Uprising Studios for also allowing us to utilize some of their library as well, because we use a kind of pretty big library in terms of pulling certain sound effects in to get what we wanted for the film. And I would say sound design is something that's very critical to the entire film, because it helps also to set the mood for when the guys scoring, putting on their scores and stuff. They can get the visual cues of the jump scares and the kind of creepy kind of noises that are happening there, and they can just add their magic to it. So I also want to big up Craig and Anderson for doing a magnificent job for the film Into the Darkness. So let's jump in the other parts now, where we've done all of the post-production, sound editing and stuff. We've come to the end of the editing of the audio, of the sound, putting it all together and really making it where it sounded and it looked great. It was like a totally different feel for the whole movie. I do want to say though that when we released the movie, there were some issues with the DCP, which is a digital cinema package. So believe it or not, that like messed up all the audio. So people were like, what's happening here? It has to be the song, man. But no, it was not me, guys. It was just a mix-up with the DCP. So we've got that corrected now, and it's back in cinemas. Well, it will be back in cinemas by the time this is released. But yeah, it's interesting to see that you can do a lot of work and not really critical little things like conversion of the final product is very important. So always take a look at that. And I want to say again, thanks to Boardhouse Productions for making this reality. With Audio Labb Studios, I want to shout out to Brandon Athley, the script writer, and Graham Bannister, who helped us in every way possible, from transportation to planning to even getting sponsors on board to aid us in some of these things, because this movie was very difficult, lots of long hours. I don't think some people understand how difficult a movie is to make, but it's fun, and me sharing some of my experience with you can really help to understand what the process is in Barbados when you're making a film. Things like securing a location, things like securing people's time, because people work and it's a part-time thing for them. It can't be full-time because we don't have a developed industry here, but we're hoping to. We need to diversify our industries more, not just focusing on one, which is tourism. But that also helps with it, and more or less understanding logistics. And I would always say and would iterate, plan. Pre-production planning, that's where I would say 80% of all the hard work really goes in, right? That thought process in getting everything planned, down to transportation, food, location, logistics. If there's rain, what do we do? What equipment do we need for this thing? What lights do we need? It's just all planned. What to wear. Very important. But with all that said, we did a great job, and I want to thank the whole entire crew and cast for being a part of Into the Darkness, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and stay tuned for more.